Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's fact. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Last Round Podcast. Thank you again for joining us. Jumping straight back into it, fight reviews this past Saturday, the 27th of January, from the Ulster Hall in Belfast, Northern Ireland on DAZN. Lewis Crocker remains undefeated at 19-0 with the fifth round TKO over Jose Felix. The 27-year-old Crocker, I guess, is he having trouble making 147? Like, is that the deal here, or is he big for that weight, or what's going on here?
Combination of both, I guess. Yeah, he was always kind of big for the weight, balled himself down, but he kind of got caught out by that, the British thing of, 3 days before you have to be within, is it 3% of the weight? And he wasn't. So they said, like, hey, the smallest you can boil yourself down to is 150. So obviously, Crocker was already a pretty big guy for 147. Jose Felix was really, if we're being honest, a fighter at 135, maybe 140. So to then make him fight at 150, Jose Felix didn't really have much of a chance, I would have said, on the night. But he's a game fighter, been in with some good fighters. And I think Lewis Crocker looked good on the night, but I think there was a little bit of an asterisk against it due to the fact that he dragged Felix up to 147 and then dragged him up again to 150. I think some of the fans, weren't too happy with that.
Well, I mean, what's your? I know we talked about it last week, but just for the listeners who didn't listen to last week's preview episode when we talked about this fight, what do you think about Crocker's potential? You think he can get some good wins out of that career so far, or going forward? I guess.
I think he's a good TV fighter. Because, he's heavy-handed. I think as soon as he kind of lands on you and he sees that he's had you hurt, he goes for the kill. Do I see him winning a world title? No, not a 147 or 154, if I'm being completely honest.
How about a British title?
I could see him doing well at British level, European level. Coming after some of those trinkets that we all love, WBA International, WBA Gold. Something like that. I could see him collecting those sorts of titles, but no, I don't see him up there with, your Virgil Ortiz, your Terence Crawford, your Charlos and people like that, 147 or 154. But yeah, hand-picked select fighters for TV, working, further down the pecking order, or a good co-main, someone that kind of comes out and warms the crowd up, when you go and watch a comedian, they'll stick on someone funny and he kind of warms the crowd up before the main event comes. Crocker is somebody like that. I would kind of say, because he's heavy-handed, he's fun to watch, he kind of goes for the kill. So yeah, I think he could have, a good career, but I don't see him. He's not the next Canelo. He's not the next Virgil Ortiz. No.
But he's on something. 19-0 at 27 years old. I think he's in a pretty sweet spot in terms of his career when you compare his age to his record, But has he had any fights outside of Europe?
No, I don't think so. I think it's been mainly domestic against well-selected fighters.
Right.
Do you know who I could see him being similar to? I'm not saying this in terms of style, more in terms of career path. Lewis Ritson. When Lewis Ritson turned pro, he was doing something very similar. He was kind of knocking people out, and he had a lot of home fans in the northeast of England, in Newcastle, because there wasn't too many boxers coming out of there, and he kind of brought boxing back to that region. But then, slowly but surely, when he moved up, he kind of got found out. When people could actually kind of punch and move and stuff like that, he came unstuck. And I think Lewis Crocker could maybe be similar to that. I think
that's a pretty good comparison. And the co-main event, how did I say this last week? Is it Siobhan or Shevin?
I think it's Siobhan, I believe.
Siobhan Clark also remains undefeated early in his career, but 8-0 as he gets his sixth knockout in his career so far with the 4th round TKO over Tommy McCarthy, who gets the 6th professional loss of his career. What do you think about this fight and Clark's performance?
I thought Clark did well. I think due to the fact that, Tommy McCarthy had kind of taken a step back, he was concentrating more on like he does stand-up comedy, podcasts and stuff like that. And then kind of decided, like I still want to box. And he came back and obviously, fought Siobhan Clark. He didn't give him a chance to really kind of settle into the fight. Straight away, he caught him. I think it was with like a jab or, something like that and kind of backed him up. And then he just kind of jumped at him after that. And you can see it was, more than likely going to be a quick night for him. And I think it's one of those things where you think Tommy's probably thinking like, oh shit, I'm having second and third thoughts about, maybe coming back because Siobhan Clark, I think he put him away the fastest anybody had ever done. A good performance from him. I thought he looked good, but it was kind of hard to judge just due to the fact Tommy McCarthy kind of has like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Do I want to be here? I don't want to be here. So you couldn't really judge, is that the same Tommy McCarthy that fought, Chris Billum-Smith? No, it didn't seem like it. So it was kind of really to judge how good that performance was from Clark because, where's Tommy's mind really? And this could be the last time, I think we see Tommy McCarthy. I think he's, seems like he's got some success outside of the ring. So maybe he doesn't want it or need it as much as he used to.
Clark, obviously this was a cruiserweight fight. Clark being in the cruiserweight division at 8-0, because we know that the cruiserweight division isn't as glamorous, hasn't been as glamorous as other divisions in the past. Do you think that Clark, assuming he keeps winning in his career, he gets to a significant fight or a world championship fight sooner rather than later within the cruiserweight division? What do you think? Like if you had to pick, he's at 8-0. By which fight would he get to that level?
I think he's probably going to move, fairly quickly. I think that we could see him face, Isaac Chamberlain, I believe, for the British, or Chamberlain may vacate, and then, he gets to fight someone vacant. But if you're looking at like British level, he's got a lot of people. You got Chris Billum-Smith, Richard Riakporhe, Lawrence Okoli, Isaac Chamberlain, like we just said. And then after that is obviously, you're looking at obviously some of the bigger names. If he's going to move up to world level, Gilberto Ramirez, Jai Opetaia, Badou Jack. I think Badou Jack personally would be, somebody with, a name, somebody that's like, what is it, like a 3-weight world champion somehow. But I've honestly never rated him. I've never watched a performance of him. He just seems to have been well-picked opponents at the right time, and he's always been backed by, the Saudis and, guys in Vegas have always seemed to have loved him. And he's always seemed to have lived a very charmed career, in my opinion. So if I was somebody
he's networked really well. He's networked really well.
Unbelievably well.
Yeah.
And then, he won that WBC off, was it Maccabu? And then didn't really do anything with it. I don't
that's right. We've never really heard anything from it, huh?
No, I think he might have even vacated it, to be honest with you. That seemed like it was a perfect way for him to get an enormous payday. Pretty much just sell the belt to somebody, and he's about 40 years old, probably not really much left to really achieve, and he could have sailed off in the sunset with I'd imagine a good few extra million by pretty much just selling that belt to somebody. But yeah, Siobhan Clark, to be honest with you, he's in a really good spot. I think he's got a lot of talent, obviously at British level, and then also, further afield over in, world. I think there's some people that are around there that he could beat, and it's good time for him really in that division.
Yeah, exactly. Rounding off this card, Paddy Donovan remains undefeated as well at 13-0 with a TKO in the 7th round over Williams Andres Herrera, who takes the 3rd loss of his career. What do you think about Donovan's win here?
Some good, some bad. It was funny because it looked like Williams Andres Herrera was kind of like growing into the fight and did manage to catch Paddy a couple of times. But then Paddy kind of just took him out. I don't know. Maybe it's just due to the fact he grew in confidence and there was more openings because he was looking for more things. He was being more attack minded, and then Donovan just kind of took him out after that. But there's definitely some things for him to work on, but sometimes it is hard to kind of judge somebody at that level because they're very attack-minded because they want to take out these, lesser opponents as such, and they want to look good. So they open up a little bit more themselves, which obviously leaves them a little bit more exposed for something to come back. But essentially, he did what we wanted him to do, right? He's 13-0, good performance from him. Andy Lee, I thought, did some good corner work, very calm, cool, collected in there. And, for somebody that young, kind of boxing in front of the home crowd, I thought it's a pretty good performance, to be honest. And I think we need to see him more, though. I think I'd like to see him out a little bit more, 3, 4, 5 fights this year and then step him up.
And also this past weekend from the Footprint Center in Phoenix, Arizona on DAZN, Jaime Munguia also remains undefeated at 43-0 with a 9th round TKO over John Ryder, who takes the 7th loss of his professional career. This was for the WBC silver super middleweight title at 168 pounds. I'll let you start. What'd you think about Munguia's performance and Ryder's performance?
I thought that Munguia did well, because I think everyone, it sounds strange to say it, but going into the fight, he was 42-0. And I think most of us were like, how good is Munguia? Strangely enough, with 42 fights, you'd think, okay, we've got plenty to look at and plenty to work off, and we know how good he is. But we still didn't really, to be honest with you. And I thought this was a good performance. I thought, he kind of systematically broke down John Ryder. I thought his punch placement was well. I thought he mixed it up really well, head to body, body to head, stuff like that.
And this was his first fight with Freddie Roach. Let's mention that.
Yeah, exactly. A good performance with Freddie. Obviously, Freddie's super attack minded coach. And I suppose we'll say it right. He did something Canelo didn't do. Canelo didn't get rid of John Ryder. Munguia did. Munguia,
that's true. But I mean, like, how much did Canelo take out of Ryder?
Exactly. That's the problem, right? There's some things that we can't see. How much did he take out of Ryder? When Ryder got paid multiple millions, what did he do? Did he go out and party? Did he? How much does he want it now? I'm sure he is at home getting out with silk sheets in the morning. Does he want to go for that run? Whereas before, before Canelo fight, he was still probably earning, decent money, but I'm sure that for the Canelo fight, he was earning, several million. So, stuff like that. It's obviously we can't judge. We don't see those things. We can't see his heart and the will that he has. That's something that we can't see. So, I thought it was still a good performance from Munguia, though, and I think something that we've all kind of been wanting to see, kind of a breakout performance, if you can say that, because John Ryder was a bit of a name. Obviously, he called out Canelo. They have a similar opponent now. Obviously, Canelo and him.
I mean, do you rate Ryder a lot higher than Derevyanchenko? Because obviously, Munguia's last fight was Derevyanchenko, and people called that, like, even though he had to dig deep down to get that win, that was a necessary win for the development of his career, and it was a big win. So, would you rate Ryder higher than Derevyanchenko?
No.
See, I wouldn't either.
No.
I wouldn't either. I think Ryder was a solid opponent, and then, you get the Canelo marketing, similar opponent, or, I understand that, but I always thought, even before, that Derevyanchenko was a more dangerous opponent than Ryder going into both fights.
Yeah, I mean, I think Derevyanchenko is more skillful, in terms of like a matchup.
Eastern European skill set that they all have.
Ryder's more hittable. Ryder's already been, defeated by, Canelo, Cannon Smith, which was a close fight, and Ryder probably should have won it. Nick Blackwell several years ago fought for, world titles, never won them. Fought for the British title 2 times, I think, or maybe even 3 times. Didn't win it. So yeah, I mean, I think Ryder it was a good performance because Ryder's kind of like hard to get rid of. I think that's only the second time he's ever been stopped. And obviously, when he goes in there against Canelo and Canelo can't get him away, that's kind of the big thing that everyone leaps to, right? Is obviously, he did something Canelo couldn't do. That's something that, I'm sure Munguia and his team are going to feed off to try to create some type of hype so we get that fight, later this year. But from the rumors that we see, it's probably not going to be this year, right? It looks like it's going to be the other Charlo and then hopefully, fingers crossed, Benavidez.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, before we get into that, still sticking on the performance here, It was very interesting to see Munguia and Roach in the corner in between each round and stuff. Because, obviously Munguia is comfortable speaking Spanish and Roach speaks English. But I mean, Roach has been around a lot of fighters over the years, a lot of fighters from different countries, which a lot of them have been of, some type of Latin or Hispanic or something like that. So, he's probably caught on to a couple words here and there. But Roach was like giving him instructions in the corner when they had it on TV, and Munguia would say, yeah, like he understood. So it seemed, that's what I was intrigued about. I was like, oh, okay, how is that gonna, Roach obviously has the experience, but that's what I was really intrigued to see. Because when was the last time? I'm sure Roach has a lot of fighters right now who don't, English isn't their first language and stuff, but for example, Pacquiao and Cotto, their English obviously was a lot stronger than Munguia, so they can communicate a lot better with somebody like Freddie Roach. But no, it worked out. You can see Munguia, like, obviously when he got the win, when he got the stoppage, he saw Freddie Roach, he gave him a hug, then he gave him a kiss like on the head. So he was really happy about that. Roach looked very happy. I think that was a good move to switch from Eric Morales in Mexico and to come to Freddie Roach in LA. Because I mean, I think we've touched on it before. Freddie Roach, he's obviously been around for a long time, and he's had Hall of Fame fighters and a Hall of Fame career himself. But he really doesn't have that. At this point, he doesn't have that marquee fighter anymore. When for the last, almost 20 years or so, he's always had, in the history of boxing, he's in the last 20 years, he's always had some type of marquee fighter that he's been with, but he really hasn't had anybody in recent memory. But now he's got Munguia, and I think that's a really good fit, And we were hearing that Munguia was showing up to the gym on time. He was ready to work. That everybody was impressed with him at the wild card gym. He worked hard. So, and obviously any trainer, but especially somebody like Freddie Roach, like they want you to work hard, be on time, listen. So I think that's a good pairing. I think that's a good pairing. I liked it when the news broke that they were together, and I think Munguia with Freddie Roach is a lot more dangerous, and it's really good for the development of his career going forward.
No, yeah, I agree. I think especially with Munguia's natural style of...
He's an attacker.
Yeah, just being very, very attack-minded, and I think that's something that I don't think Freddie will try to change. I think
it's like Pacquiao. Pacquiao is an attacker too.
Yeah, I think he'll just polish that and just kind of make that into something better, tweak it here and there, and I think it's probably going to be a good matchup. I think hopefully he stays with him, and
I think Munguia is always going to get hit though. He didn't get hit as much this fight as he did in the Derevyanchenko fight. Ryder still caught him. Munguia still has a couple flaws there, but he could take a shot. Obviously, he could take some shots, which helps himself. But Munguia is one of those guys, one of those fighters who we talk about TV fighters. Munguia is a great TV fighter. Like he engages, like he goes for it, and he participates in the exchanges and stuff. When you would think, hey, you can put your foot on the brake and kind of counter, or put your guard up or something, and kind of slow down the pace. But Munguia will engage and go for it, which for the crowd there and on TV, it's great. It's money. That's what people want to see. But it's not necessarily that you can't be successful in other styles, but for TV, I mean, that's just the nature of the game. Going back to what you said about Canelo, it looks like he might fight Jermall Charlo and maybe Benavidez in September. Which, if it is, like, I don't think anybody should be surprised. His deal is without Heyman. They want to keep every promoter does that. We've touched on that like 1,000 times. Like every promoter wants to try to keep in-house fights because then they get to keep the whole pot of money. It doesn't have to be shared amongst promoters and other people and stuff like that. So, 95% that it will be another PBC guy for May and September. I mean, Heyman has the biggest star in the world in boxing, most bang for your buck. So he's going to try to keep all that pot of money in house. But I'm not a fan. I don't want to see him fight Jermall Charlo. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that fight at all. But it is what it is. And I feel like I'd be surprised. I mean, I don't know. But the thing is Canelo has said that he likes Al Heyman. He's praised him, and he says he's respects the guy. So I can see him just saying, all right, yeah, I'll fight Jermall Charlo for you, I mean, the marketing, I'll fight my twin brother and stuff like that. I mean, I could see it, but I wouldn't want to see it. And going back to the Munguia fight, they asked him, Chris Maddox of DAZN asked him in the post-fight press conference, asked him about his performance, and then asked him about what his next fight is. And Munguia's always been a very diplomatic speaker in Spanish. Well, he speaks in Spanish, and he says he's ready for whoever, and he wants the best and stuff like that. And then Maddox brought up Canelo Alvarez. He's like, he's the guy with all the belts at your weight class, 168. Is that a fight you want? And then Munguia was very respectful about it, saying, if he gives us the honor to be in the ring with him, we'd love to share the ring with him. It'd be great. And we touched on this last week, but in terms of most bang for your buck, for the most money that somebody like Canelo, because he is a star, could make in back-to-back fights or in a year span of fighting twice. Is he going to make more money fighting Charlo in May and Benavidez possibly in September, or fighting Munguia in May, assuming he beats Munguia, and then fighting Benavidez in September? What do you think?
The latter.
Right?
Munguia and Benavidez, I don't think Charlo sells anyway.
Yeah, in terms of the selling, and like he's fighting back-to-back Mexicans, and we've already, Mexican people buy fights.
Mm-hmm.
They buy the fights. And Canelo already has his built-in fan base and the casual fan base. People buy his fights. He's a proven seller. And you throw in Munguia on there, who even people who might not be aware of him in the mainstream, they'll start seeing interviews with him and then clips and stuff, and they'll be like, oh, this guy can fight, and he's 43-0, like, and he's got like 36 knockouts, and they'll see clips of him, and and he's with Oscar De La Hoya. Oh, didn't Canelo leave Oscar De La Hoya? That thing writes itself, man. That thing writes itself. It does. It does. And then if Canelo wins, let's just say assuming, it's kind of like, look at it this way. Tell me if you agree with this or not. It's kind of like, if you're fighting Munguia, and it's not that Canelo has to do it, but you're fighting Munguia to get to the next big boss, which is David Benavidez. Even though Canelo is the boss, but it's kind of like more like in terms of marketing, financial, TV attention, because fighting Charlo and then possibly Benavidez in September, it doesn't have the same effect. It just doesn't. But I feel that fighting Munguia in May, which isn't going to happen because even De La Hoya was like, oh, we're looking for September. I just think they think May's too soon. So it's too soon for them to scramble together again. Which I don't think it is, but it is what it is. And then Canelo, let's just say Canelo beats Munguia, and let's just say he stops him. The aftermath of that fight, going into another Mexican clash with David Benavidez, who's, who I would think is a lot more mainstream known right now because of his association with Canelo the last couple of years. That's just going to increase the pot of money for that fight. What's going to be a larger pot for somebody like David Benavidez and Canelo? Coming off a Charlo fight in May or coming off a Munguia fight in May? Think about it. I just don't want to see Charlo, but it's 95% it's going to be, in-house fighters for PBC to fight Canelo in May and September. I mean, I get it. They haven't signed to an agreement, and it's on Amazon for their first couple events.
I'm pretty sure that I said that after the fight before, that it would be Charlo and then Benavidez, because it seemed like that they were showcasing the other Charlo against Benavidez that night, like they do. And then obviously he got the victory, but it wasn't obviously a great victory. And then, that's like, okay, like he's back, this is the next opponent for Canelo, unfortunately. But yeah, like you say, they want to keep all the toys in house, they want to keep the money in house.
Yeah, I mean, every promoter does that. That's the thing. But
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's
I mean, who else does Al Heyman have to offer? It's just Benavidez and Charlo to Canelo, right?
No, Morel.
I don't. But Morel's not. You need some type of marketing and box office behind you, and it's the only ones you have is Benavidez and Charlo. Jamal.
Yeah,
really. And then people were throwing Terrence Crawford's name in there, like, oh, Terrence Crawford could be doing it too. Like, I think Crawford has already said he's been down. At first he said no, and then he changed his mind, saying he's for it. But obviously, the big man on campus is Canelo. If Canelo gives you the green light, then you'll get the fight. But he's the boss. He's the A side. So would you rather see? Let me ask you this. Throwing a couple different fantasy scenarios at you. We just talked about Munguia in May, Benavidez in September, Charlo in May, Benavidez in September. I'm going to give you some different combinations here. Would you want Munguia in May, Benavidez in September, Crawford in May, Munguia in September?
Yeah.
Crawford in May or Benavidez in September?
As much as I'd like to see Crawford Canelo, because Crawford's just a fucking very good fighter, Munguia, then Benavidez just gets my juices going.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, doesn't it?
It's just everything kind of, they're both very attack-minded fighters.
Munguia's been active. Activity matters. Yeah. Charlo has not been active.
Yeah, the build-up for the Benavidez one would be great because...
oh, yeah. It's big.
Would Benavidez and his dad still kind of do the shit talking, or would they be kind of respectful because it's Canelo, or would they try to do like the, kind of like the Conor McGregor thing of getting under his skin so he fights more with, passion and stuff like that, and, kind of loses it a little bit instead of being cool, calm and collected. Yeah, it'd be just an interesting matchup all around, Hopefully, I'm hoping we at least get one of them. Benavidez seems more reasonable. Is Canelo
going to respect more somebody like Munguia, who's very diplomatic and saying, if he gives us the honor of sharing the ring with him, we love that fight, or somebody like Benavidez and his team, who, it comes with the territory. It's a fight game, but they've been talking shit about Canelo trying to get that fight for a long time. Would Canelo take a Munguia fight just to spite Benavidez? And we didn't even touch on Benavidez Munguia. What about that fight? I think that's an exciting fight too.
I think if it was up to Canelo, he would choose the respect, because who did he get an argument with? Was it Billy Joe Saunders? When he was kind of like arguing with him about like him being disrespectful, and
it probably was Saunders. Yeah.
I think it might have been when he fought Billy Joe, he got into like an argument, and that's something that he was bringing up about how disrespectful he was. And I think that he would rather fight someone like a Munguia who has that respect and kind of like the old school martial arts type thing of like, we don't need to shit talk. We're going to do it in the ring.
Let me ask you this. How much does Munguia being with Golden Boy hurt his chances of getting a Canelo fight? If you had to put a percentage on it.
Obviously right now, massively, because of the fact that he's got that obviously 2 fights left of the contract with PBC. And I think if that was out the way and it was just an open playing field right now, I think it hurts him a little bit, but there's not that many people really left for him to fight that, like you touched on, draw so much attention and make that big pot of money, that he's kind of limited and he kind of has to go to Golden Boy, right? Because if it was an open playing field altogether, Benavidez and Munguia are probably the two biggest pots of money.
I think right now, yes, Benavidez and Munguia are the two biggest pots of money that Canelo could have as dance partners.
Berlanga?
No.
No?
No. No.
Yeah, I think those two are the biggest.
I honestly, I mean, it'd be a fun fight, but I wouldn't even want to see Munguia Berlanga. Like, if he doesn't get the Canelo fight this year, like, it'd be a fun fight. It was like, okay, but like, I feel like Munguia, like, that'd be a step back for him coming off of Derevyanchenko and Ryder. Berlanga would be a step back for him.
Easy money, easy payday.
No, right. Exactly. Yeah. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a fun fight, but in terms of progressing, it's a reversal. But it's a marketable fight.
Yeah, I'm saying marketable because Berlanga's, I'm sure he would shit talk a little bit and stuff like that, and he kind of his attitude, his aura. I think all of them beat him. Diego Pacheco, Munguia, and Benavidez. I think they all smug Berlanga.
Yeah. No, I think we're on the same page there. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting because Canelo normally announces his fights for February.
Yeah, because you'd looking at what you want 6 to 8 weeks, right?
Yeah, right. Mid to late February, and then they might do some press tours in March, and then go back to the gym, right?
Because this year I'm assuming they're going to go May 4th.
Oh, probably. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cinco de Mayo is the 5th.
Yeah.
That's the Sunday.
And I think PBC already have a hold on some Vegas venues on that day, I believe, with the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
I think our boy posted that, right? Big Al?
Yeah, I know he pushes that information out a lot. Yeah. That might have been where we saw it.
Yeah, I think I saw that on his Twitter, or X as it's called now.
But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm very intrigued to see, like, obviously when these big fighters, the biggest stars, like when you're waiting for them to announce their fights, like you're always like, oh, okay, let's see who they're going to announce. Like, I'm very interested to see Canelo's plans this year. Even though, like, I'm trying to be, I guess I'm just trying to be excited about it, but I think we all know 95% it's going to be probably Charlo and Benavidez. I mean, he has a fight with PBC, and now who knows? Maybe in those PBC contracts it says that, maybe when he signs these deals with these promoters or something, that since he left Golden Boy, maybe they say like, hey, the opponent you fight for each fight in this contract has to be a guy promoted by me, unless otherwise directed because of like injury or something like that. Like, I mean, that language could be in the contract, right? Like, but I feel like Canelo is too strong he has too much clout to have something like that in the contract. I mean,
yeah. You'd think so.
You would think. I mean, we're just speculating, but yeah. And it doesn't seem like, De La Hoya and them said, oh, September, give it to Munguia. They were shooting, because I think De La Hoya even said in interviews, like, he's like, well, we were hearing Charlo's going to get it in May, Jamal Charlo. So I think they kind of closed the door on May for any type of possibility from Munguia and Canelo. Do you think that even if Canelo's team reaches out to Munguia's team for May, do you think Munguia and Golden Boy would take it for May? Or do you think they'd be like, no, let's pump the brakes? If he's already reaching out, that means he's interested. He'll be interested again by September. I feel if he reaches out for May, speculating here, They need to jump on that.
Yeah. I think even though I previously said he hasn't got too many opponents to pick from right now, I still think you have to take that guaranteed shot when it's given to you, you know?
Right.
Because we don't know how many fights he's got left. He's made that
Right.
much money that he could wake up one day and go to training and be like, you know what? I'm done. And he can just walk away. He's made that much money. And he just be like, you know what? I just want to play golf.
Yeah. And he's young enough where he could probably, make some type of headway on a professional sport of golf.
Right. I know he's supposed to be super good, isn't he? But it's, unfortunately, I think, if you're Munguia, you just got to take it, right? You just take the chances when they come, and he's that powerful. That's the sort of thing that he can kind of do to people, right? Like, hey, you've got 6 weeks. This is your chance.
If Munguia, let's just say he did get the Canelo fight in May or September, and he loses, I mean, Canelo would be the favorite. That's his first loss in his career. And who's the loss against? It's one of the best fighters in the world today. So it's like, it's not going to hurt him.
Didn't hurt Canelo.
Yeah.
He lost to Mayweather.
Yeah. He lost to Bivol, and he's still the biggest star in the world.
Yep.
So yeah. Yeah. Activity matters, man. You got to stay in front of the camera, in front of the people. It does. I mean, we talk about MMA, UFC, Bellator, and all these guys. Like the best fighters in the world have losses, but they're still the biggest stars. So you just got to stay active. That's the thing. In the co-main event of this Arizona card, Oscar Collazo remains undefeated at 9-0 with the third round TKO over Reyneris Gutierrez. This was for the WBO minimum weight championship. Collazo seems like he's pretty marketable. Maybe they can get some good business out of him. Obviously as he goes up in weight, it'll be a lot better in terms of opponents and marketability and bigger fights. But, he seems like he's got a good personality. He speaks Spanish and English, and he seems like he's got a pretty exciting style. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well, for, a minimum weight, 9 wins, 7 KOs. And obviously, I know sometimes they say that the lighter weights, they throw a lot of punches, but there isn't too much behind them. That's why like a Inoue, for example, is kind of, very different, very marketable because he actually gets rid of people, and Collazo is kind of doing something similar. He's good to watch, good counter puncher, caught him, and early in the third and then just, took him out, beat him up, shook him pretty badly. And the referee was forced to make the stoppage. Good fighter, I think we know him a little bit in California. I'm pretty sure he's fought at like Fantasy Springs and stuff like that. Seems to have a good character about him. Seems like a funny guy. So someone I think to kind of promote those those smaller divisions as well, which is good. But yeah, he's fun to watch. I enjoyed the fight.
Yeah, he's exciting. So. I think the big thing is just, they're going to keep, I think they're going to keep him as like co-main events or as many cards as they can. But as he moves up in weight, I'm not sure how old he is. Do we know how old he is?
I think he's young.
He should be, right?
I think he's 26 or something like that.
Okay. So he's got time. As long as he keeps winning, obviously, like I mentioned, he has to move up in weight to really get the most bang for your buck and start headlining cards. But I think they're going to start keeping him out on co-mains and a lot of cards going forward. So he's an excited fighter.
27.
Okay. So it's still good, man. Still solid. So, like I said, I don't think we're really going to see the payoff here until he like moves up in a couple weight classes. So
what does El Pupilo mean? Pupilo.
Pupilo.
That's his nickname.
Pupillo. Man, you stumped me. Google it. You got it right there. You got it on the spot. Oscar El Pupillo Collazo.
Pupilo in English. I don't think there's a translation. It came up with Ward.
Ward? Type that in, but put Urban Dictionary. See what pops up.
Translation is border.
Border?
Yeah.
What if you just take away EL? You delete that. See what it says. Ah, man, I feel like they said it on the broadcast, and I forgot. Yeah, I totally forgot what they said. I'm trying to think about it right now while you're obviously checking that out. You got anything?
No, can't find it.
It'll come to me maybe by the end of this episode. It's all right. We can move on. Moving on, rounding off this card, Gabriela Fundora remains undefeated as well at 13-0 with a 10th round TKO over Christina Cruz, who takes the first loss of her career. This is for the IBF Flyweight Championship of the World. So this was obviously a very strange fight. The fight was stopped when Cruz turned her back. There was a little bit of chatter about if the fight should have been stopped. The referee made the right decision. I'll let you go first. What did you think about how this stoppage unfolded?
At first glance, I thought it was right. It looks like she caught her, and then Christina Cruz, kind of turned her back and like covered up. And then I saw Christina Cruz put something along the lines of that she stumbled over her foot, and that was why she ended up facing the other way. And I honestly haven't had a chance to watch it back to see if that was the case. But, from what I saw, watching it, it looked, she turned away, she kind of covered up at the time, and I thought it looked like a good stoppage. And, what can the referee do? And when that's what he sees as well, right? Nothing much he can really do there. I thought looked good at the time. Fundora's fun to watch, looked like she has a little bit of pop about her punches, just like her brother. I thought it was a good performance, really. Would have been good to, maybe see them do, like 3-minute rounds or something like that. So Fundora can kind of, use that power a little bit more and, beat people up, and hopefully, we get more stoppages and, people getting dropped more. Same thing I complain about every time we chat about female fights, unfortunately. But I thought it was a good performance. I do actually enjoy watching Fundora. She looks like she's heavy-handed.
I agree that it was a good stoppage. The girl turned her back. And then I think she released like some type of statement or post saying that she did that because, she was expecting the referee to jump in at one point and he didn't. So then she tried to her back was turned for an extended amount of time, and then she crouched down even more. And I thought that was a good stoppage, and then I know people were trying to do examples like, oh, Mayweather did it to McGregor. How come that same energy isn't there? I mean, think about the backlash. If that fight between Mayweather and McGregor at that point, if the referee stopped that fight and gave Mayweather that loss, think about that backlash for the event of that size.
If I remember rightly, wasn't McGregor kind of put his hand on Mayweather's hip and kind of
maybe. I mean,
pulling himself behind him.
Just think about that backlash.
Yeah,
all that money invested into that.
You get punching him on the head, didn't he? Kind of slapping him on the head with the glove when he was.
Yeah. It was like a game, but yeah. Just think about that backlash. If the referee would have stopped that fight, oh, you had your back turned, you lost. The first loss to Mayweather's career. What? That would have been nuts, man. Moving on to fight previews. This upcoming Saturday, the 3rd of February, from the Wembley Arena in London. Dan Aziz, another undefeated fighter, 20-0, goes up against Joshua Buatsi, another undefeated fighter, batter of undefeated. This is a pretty good fight. This is for the British and Commonwealth light heavyweight titles. All right. Who do you got in the battle of these undefeated fighters? Aziz versus Buatsi.
I think it's a good matchup, and it's one that's kind of hard to pick because if you just look at paper, Buatsi's obviously, with his amateur career and, it's kind of turning pro, he's had a very, slow stop-start professional career where Dan Aziz has kind of been a lot more active and come up the hard way, I would have said, from small hall all the way up to, being on the bigger shows right now. They know each other, obviously, from being, both from the UK, sparred each other, stuff like that. So, it's going to be probably all systems go, at the first bell because there's going to be no love lost between the two on the night. So It's kind of hard to pick out, but I'm gonna go with what my feeling was when I first saw it. I think Aziz upsets him because I think he's just been more active. He's come up the hard way. Buatsi seems to have kind of been wrapped in cotton wool a little bit. Not really done anything at all as a pro. Probably his biggest win is when he probably beat Craig Richards. Lots of injuries, lots of dropping out of fights. Not the biggest fan of his coach either, Virgil Hunter. I think he's massively overrated.
I think I disagree with you. I think Buatsi takes this.
On paper, he should, but what's he ever done? Like as a pro, it's like he's just been in like second or third gear his entire time. Even when he's been in there with like people that he should essentially be blowing away, he doesn't do it. And I think that just due to the fact of Aziz has kind of worked his way up, been a lot more active, I think he might just be fresher on the night. Buatsi really should win because Buatsi, when he turned pro, I think everyone was thinking like he's pretty much just like a fucking nailed-on world champion. But it's never come to fruition, and he tried to blame DAZN and Matchroom and stuff like that. Went over to Sky, done absolutely nothing since he's been there.
Is this on Sky?
Yeah, I tried to actually look. I forgot to look today. I'm not too sure where it is in the US. Might be on Peacock. I know that they have had a few shows on Peacock.
Oh, yeah, they had like a partnership. Boxer has a partnership with Peacock or something, right? NBC Sports, something like that.
So if you're a US listener to us, I would check Peacock and NBC Sports. It could be on one of those two. I did forget to look, but I'll try to look and post it on Twitter. But yeah, I think Aziz might sneak it. I'm going to go with that just due to like what I said. I think he's kind of been a little bit more active.
Like we talked about before, winning the British title is pretty much like
huge.
Yeah, that's big, right? Like that kind of sets you up to like really get the significant fights with the world champions, right?
Yeah, in the UK, I think it's kind of more. That's kind of how you start, right? You work your way up, and if you're super super old school, you do like Southern area or Northern area, English, British, Commonwealth, EBU, European, and then you go to for world titles after that. If you want to do the complete package, so you've got every single belt. That's the way that you normally do it. I think Tyson Fury's done all of them apart from maybe the Southern area or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd like to see. Anyway, I think some of the fighters like to do that kind of package, and I think Aziz just might be getting Buatsi at the right time. If he's not what he used to be and he's not firing on all cylinders, I think Aziz, with the pressure type of style that he has, I think he takes it on the night.
Also on the card, Adam Azim. Or is it Azim? Adam Azim. I'm going to go Azim. 10-0 goes up against Enoch Poulsen. 14-0 for the EBU, a European Super Lightweight Championship. Battle of Undefeateds. What do you think about this fight?
Good fight. Adam Azim's, I think everybody so far is, thinks that he's going to be, a future world champion. I think even Shane McGuigan said he's one of the most talented fighters that he's had, step through into the gym. Enoch Poulsen, fighter out of Denmark, not someone that not a country that you really associate with boxing. I think it should be an easy night's work for him. This is going to be his first fight actually out of Denmark. I think someone who's probably just got an undefeated record, right? 14-0, kind of looks good on paper. I think it's probably going to be, pretty easy work for Adam Azim on the night.
Also on the card, Caroline Dubois goes up against 8-0, goes up against Miranda Reyes, 7-1-1 for the IBO Lightweight Championship. Dubois, any relation to Dynamite?
Little sister.
Is it? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's interesting. So, I didn't know she would. I didn't know he had another sibling who was a boxer. That's pretty interesting. But
yeah,
Dubois,
with Shane McGuigan, I think the way that he talks about it, she looks like she's pretty much set in stone. Future women's world champion, and supposedly has a lot of power. So hopefully she can be someone that kind of comes onto the scene as a women fighter, and we get to see more knockouts, knockdowns, and stuff like that. It should be an easy win for her, really. Looking at Miranda Reyes' resume, pretty much a lot of local fights over here in the US. I think 1 or 2 in Mexico as well. Easy night's work, and she keeps hold of her IBO lightweight world title.
Moving on, also this weekend from the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas, Nevada on DAZN, Conor Benn, 22-0, returns to the ring as he goes up against Peter Dobson, 16-0. Ben fighting in the States over here. Is it surprising? Should we expect that Conor Benn's fights, at least for the foreseeable future, will be over here in the United States?
So I was listening to an interview with Eddie today, and he said that the British Board of Boxing have their appeal to be heard in February. And obviously, if Conor Benn is victorious in that, then I think they pretty much have to give him a license to fight in the UK.
I think they will.
But yeah, if for some reason, that doesn't happen, then yeah, I'm sure we'll see, Conor Benn fighting in the US and probably, Saudi Arabia for the foreseeable future. Interestingly, this fight...
You think he'll get the license or no? I think he would. I think he.
Yeah, I think so. They got cleared once. The original case. So why would they not? Clear him again? I think the British Board of Boxing probably kind of like for show in essence, because I'm sure.
Yeah, and I've seen Conor Benn be on a lot of. I guess you would call them mainstream shows over there in Britain, kind of selling his side, and so he's got a pretty big footprint over there, doesn't he?
Yeah. That, for example, this fight is held in Vegas and it is at 2:00 in the afternoon. Because
this fight is at 2:00 in the afternoon?
Our time, yeah, because they won it for the UK audience. So it's going to be 2:00 in the afternoon here, which will be 10 p.m. over in the UK.
Wow, that's interesting. In Vegas, huh?
Yeah. Afternoon.
Wow, that's very interesting. Hey, but you know what? Business-wise, his audience is over there. So I understand.
Yeah, because if you look at the card, 1, 2, 3, 5 fight card, and 4 of the fighters are British, and the other one is Ammo Williams.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So
I wonder when's the last time he's fought at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
Man.
It's going to be different. He can get out on the strip afterwards for a few beers, I guess.
Yeah, as long as he wins and doesn't get hurt. Also on the card, Austin Ammo Williams, 15-0, another undefeated fighter, goes up against Armel and Bumba Yasa, 10-0 for the IBF North American Middleweight Championship. Ammo Williams, kind of forgot about him. What do you think about him?
Going to be an interesting fight because I know that Eddie Hearn, Matchroom are very, very high on him, and so far he's been doing pretty much what he should do, I guess. Seems to be heavy-handed. I'd like to see him in there with, if you remember, probably a year ago, maybe even longer than that. There was talk of him fighting Felix Cash. Felix Cash then went through some personal problems and stuff like that. But he's now back training. I think he's having a comeback fight soon. And, I would still like to see him fight that. I always rated Felix Cash. I thought he was a very good fighter, very good boxer. Just kind of the problems outside of the ring and kind of stopped him kind of really progressing. Pardon me. But I think that would be a good fight. I think it's a very good clash of styles if, that could be made, sometime later this year after Felix Cash gets probably a comeback fight because he's been out for a while and then, faces Ammo Williams. I think that would sell really well. I think Ammo Williams is a bit of a shit talker, and him and Felix Cash going at each other in the build-up would be pretty fun. So I know that was talked about before. So, let's hopefully, see it happen. And I think this is a good opponent for Ammo Williams. Umbaso Yasser has pretty much fought his entire career in Germany. Never fought, I think, maybe once outside of Germany. So I think it'd be an easy night's work, a little bit of a showcase for Ammo.
A little bit. News and notes section of this week's episode of the Last Round podcast. Rolly Romero and Pitbull Isaac Cruz have reportedly finalized the deal for Romero's WBA 140-pound WBA title at the end of March in Las Vegas. They will reportedly be the co-feature, and I don't think this is made official. It might be official already. I'm not sure, but Romero and Cruz are going to be the co-feature, co-main event to the battle between Keith Thurman and Tim Tszyu in PBC's first event, which will be a pay-per-view with Amazon Prime Video that will likely be at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. I know we talked about like Ryan was going to fight, was supposedly in negotiations with Rolly. So I don't think it should surprise people that, I think I feel like a lot of these PBC guys and PBC fighters, like they know that they can emotionally manipulate Ryan Garcia to respond and to say stuff that really makes him look dumb. So I think this was the plan all along. I don't think Al Heyman was ever going to let Rolly Romero fight Ryan Garcia and lose that title to another promoter. He's going to have, just like a lot of these promoters do, they can have an in-house fight. I mean, because think about it. Ryan has a good shot to beat Romero and get that title. If Cruz beats Romero and Cruz fights Ryan, Cruz is a harder fight for Ryan, where I think Cruz would be the favorite in that fight. So, I mean, are we surprised? Are we surprised that Romero and Cruz is happening?
No.
What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's Al Heyman doesn't share his toys. And I think the only reason that, because I know everyone's going to say, well, he let Davis and Ryan fight. Davis was probably...
Because they knew Davis was going to beat it. That was and make a lot of money off of it.
Yeah, I'm sure they got a nice chunk of the pie, and Davis went into that fight as a pretty heavy favorite, right?
And Ryan literally agreed to all their stuff. Like, even Davis said in an interview, he was just like, I give him credit. He's like, he agreed to everything I wanted.
And then if you look at like Rolly and Ryan, like you said, that's maybe a 50-50, maybe Ryan's slight favorite in that, which obviously, Al Heyman doesn't want, because then he runs off with the WBA title to probably fight Devin Haney. And
exactly.
He's not a PBC fighter either.
Exactly. So, yeah. I mean, all these promoters, that's how you look at it, because you also have to satisfy your broadcast partner, so that's where the money comes from.
That's why, the big difference, I guess, in when you have the UFC, it's all under one banner, right? They don't have to put up.
Yeah. Pros and cons, but yeah, that's true.
As Lenny used to say, the boxing politics.
Yeah, exactly. And then Tim Tszyu, Keith-Thurman.
We've all been calling for that.
Where did that come from? Hey, Thurman. they Al Heyman must really love Thurman, because Thurman's literally like been on every major like platform, NBC, Fox, Showtime, HBO. Like, he's literally been like on every major platform, and now he's about to be on Amazon. So I don't know why they're having this fight at the T-Mobile Arena, reportedly. I don't think that's a good arena for that, but I mean, we'll see. I don't think it's going to be close to a sellout.
It's no wonder they love him, the PBC fighters.
Yeah. No, he looks out for them, man. I can understand that. I can see that. You got to understand it from that perspective. They're like, hey, this guy, he looks out for us. Like, he gives us chances and gives us time to get paid. Was
it a couple of months back? Andre Berto, Roberto Guerrero, like out of absolutely nowhere.
Where did that come from, man?
And I'm sure they probably got paid really well. You've got to.
Yeah, that's insane.
Looks after him.
That's insane, man. And then also, Emmanuel Navarrete has enforced his super champion status to compete for the vacant WBO lightweight title. The WBO responded and ordered the 3-division and reigning WBO 130-pound champion to enter talks with Ukraine's Denis Berichik. Is that how you say it? Berichik.
Good fight. Really good fight.
Where do you think that fight would be? Like Texas or something?
That's a good one. Maybe.
I mean, it'd obviously be in a Hispanic market. Navarrete's not going to go to Europe.
Maybe so.
Russia.
Navarrete did a fight in San Diego before. Yeah, maybe somewhere like that, maybe like the San Diego area or something. I know they have done fights there, but that's a good fight, really good fight. And the next thing we're going to talk about, that fight announcement pretty much put Shakur Stevenson into retirement.
I mean, I get it, but like, I don't even want to expand on this too much. Like, just because it's like he's not going anywhere. So, like you said, Shakur Stevenson posted on social media that he's retiring from the sport for some reason or another. I don't know. If you want to expand on that, you can, but I'm not going to give that statement any energy.
Whose retirement's longer, Shakur Stevenson's or Teofimo Lopez's when he retired for like a week, 2 weeks?
I don't even know. He needs to get off social media and stop listening to like got to be like that guy Leo Santa Cruz. You never hear about him only until he fights. But yeah, that was weird. I'm not really sure why he posted that, but I'm looking forward to seeing you back in the ring, Shakur, next couple of months. What else? We touched on that. Yeah, that was the last thing, right? Shakur Stevenson. Yeah, like I said, I just don't want to expand on it. It's like, come on, man. Like you posted it because people are going to start talking about it. Like he wants people to give him, to get attention on it. He's not going anywhere.
I'm surprised so many people actually reported on it.
I mean, like you kind of have to, he's posting it.
He just said it because he was angry at the moment, stuff like that. Unfortunately, he hasn't got the pulling power of someone like a Floyd Mayweather, where people are going to be like, "Hey, come out of retirement," especially after like his last fight. Was it again Edwin? I mean, where
it's also like he is good, and he's so good, but he doesn't bring the financial side to the table. Like the risk is way too high for the reward. So, it's I don't know. Stevenson, I don't know, maybe that's why he posted this, because he's maybe they were in negotiations with something, or he was trying to get some fight and it just didn't work out. And he's just getting frustrated. He's like, man, none of these guys want to fight me. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what he's doing, right? He's trying to call for that sort of stuff, and he's trying to say like, hey, and the WBO mandated that fight, that they should have essentially mandated him for that, instead of those two fighting each other. So I get what he was trying to do, but yeah, obviously it's just something he said whilst he was angry in that moment, and I'm sure we'll see him back, soon.
Yeah, it's just hard. It's just hard to like really analyze this, because it's like, come on, man. How do he'll get his breakout fight. Hopefully, he doesn't have to wait as long as like Crawford did. But Stevenson is one of those guys. It's just like, even if he does wait, which hopefully he doesn't, and it would suck for him and suck for the fans, he'll still put on a performance just like Crawford did. Because they're talented guys. They are. They train together. So, yeah. I mean, we'll see. But once again, guys, thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of the Last Round podcast. We do have a guest scheduled at this moment for next week. It's a pretty exciting guest. He's been on before. So we're looking forward to speaking to him. So hopefully that stays according to the plan. As of right now, we do have a scheduled guest. We'll probably do an individual episode for that interview, and a secondary episode for our normal reviews, previews, and all that. But as of right now, we have a guest scheduled for next week. So like I said, we're going to try and get back in the rhythm now that some schedule conflicts are kind of changed in our schedules. We're going to try to do some more guest spots and interviews for you in the sport of boxing. But as we round towards the finish line of this week's episode, Mike, go ahead and let them know where they can find us and follow us.
We are at The Last Round 12 on Instagram and Twitter, and be sure to join us next week. We'll be Previewing the Thursday night fight of Teofimo Lopez, Jermaine Ortiz, also Keyshawn Davis against Jose Pedraza, and then scheduled for Saturday the 10th, the rearranged fight of Hamza Shiraz against Liam Williams.
So for my co-host Michael Shepard, I'm Danny Z. This is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round Podcast.